All right, so this class is about what to do when something changes. Would probably be even a better title for it. It originally came about when we got this current MLS system, and it had much better tools. And there are so many things that you can do when something changes in your listing. In fact, things you should do when something changes in your listing. It was originally named for what to do when you have a price reduction. It's what you should do when you have an open house. It's what you should do when a listing comes back on the market. It's what you should do when something changes in your listing. All of those kinds of things. Any events that happen to your listing while it is your listing, from the time you list it till the time it is closed and done, and even that event is included in this. These are things that you should do, and not just do. They should be a program. They should be a work list. They should be a process that you do every time, and you schedule it so that you make sure that it gets done. Hence the title, 10 Things to Do More or Less, because we're actually going to talk about more than 10 things. This is based on the idea for these two questions. Why do we list properties? Why do we get listings? And the most common answer that I get from folks is, of course, we list properties so we can sell them. And in selling them, we get a commission. And of course, we list properties so we can have more properties to sell. And that's true, sort of. I will tell you that getting listings is the biggest, most important thing you can do in your real estate career. Unless you plan to be a buyer agent as your niche in the business, which some people do, number one priority for success in real estate is getting listings. And this is the reason why you want to get listings. You want to make it rain. What listings do is they don't just sell. If you had to make a living listing properties and selling them, and that was all you ever got out of the business, you would have a hard time feeling successful. Listings produce business. More than anything else, listings generate business. And so that's what I mean when I say make it rain. Now, I'm old school. I've been in the business for over 30 years, both as an agent, as an office manager, as a trainer, and working for various MLSs. And although things are very different today with technology, the principles have not changed. We just use technology to do what we used to do with paper and pencil many years ago. You list properties so that you can put them in your various systems, so that you can generate more listings, so that you can generate more customers. And if they sell, that's a good thing as well. Does that make sense?
Yes.
That's the mentality that you want to have in this business, and it's been that way since the beginning of time. For example, we're talking about changes here. A good price reduction is worth as much or more than a new listing. It's an event. It's a change in your listing. It can take a listing that was only drawing minimal or moderate attention and suddenly make it draw a great deal more attention, both in the real estate community and out there in the real estate market. And so you want to take advantage of these kinds of changes. And I'm going to give you at least 10 things that you can do. Because you see, selling the listing primarily is doing two things properly. And this afternoon's class is about one of those things. The two things are putting it in the MLS, and we're going to talk in this afternoon's class about how to properly put your listing into the MLS and manage it there so it draws as much attention as possible. But the second thing is pricing it right. 80% of all real estate transactions or more are cooperative. Yeah, cooperative. Meaning one person listed it and another person sold it. And that happens primarily through the MLS. Let's face it, we do all of these things to tell everybody about all the wonderful things we do for them as they're being our customer and client. And it's true, but 80% to 85% of our success nationally comes from the simple fact that we priced it right and put it in the MLS. So using the MLS properly is among the most important things that you can do. 80 to 85% of your success, especially as a listing agent, will depend upon your skill at using the multiple listing service. It may be the most powerful marketing tool ever created. So, number one is networking with those who are most likely to make your listing sell. In other words, putting it in the MLS and putting it in the MLS in a way that makes it available and come to the attention of the people who are most likely to sell it for you. This afternoon's class will go into a great deal about how to put your listing in the MLS so that it draws attention. You have a ton of competition in the MLS. Not so much right now. Some of you who have started in real estate, I want to tell you two things. You picked a great time to start in real estate if you can get listings, because they seem to be selling within a couple of days. And it's actually gotten to the point where it's gotten very hard to find expired listings in the MLS. Trust me on this. It won't always be this way. And so eventually you will have a tremendous amount of competition for your listing, and you have to make yours stand out. Take this afternoon's class and we'll go over how you can make your listing stand out against the rest of your competition. So that's number one, because putting your listing into the MLS is a change. It's called starting the process. And managing it there and managing all of the changes are the next steps in the process. Oh, my PowerPoint didn't move. Let's try it again. Alrighty, I hate when this happens. There we go. So, the first thing I want to talk to you about doing when you put a listing in. How many of you have ever put a listing in the MLS? I would say nod, but I can only see 3 of you. So, but when you do a listing, you run a search for comparables, don't you?
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Gary knows because he's taken my other classes. The first thing I want you to do from now on when you do that is I want you, once you've got that search set so that it's exactly the one you want to find all your comps, I want you to save that search. And not only use it during the course of having the listing to look for new properties that come on that affect the value of your listing. Does it happen, by the way? Do you get properties that sell that weren't sold before and have an impact on the value of your listing that is currently active? Yes, you do. And do new properties come on the market during that time that affect the value and competitiveness of your listing? Yes, they do. You will at times have to go to Mr. Smith and say, this new property came on. It's almost identical to yours. They priced it $20,000 under your listing. So do you want to wait until this one sells before somebody wants to buy yours? So save that search turn it into an auto email that notifies you, and you could even make it notify your seller when these new properties occur, so that you will be prompted to contact your client. And if you make it an auto email that goes to both of you, they will be prompted to contact you. This should be a routine part of how you set up your listings once you've listed them. And very few people do this. It automates one of the things that you really should be keeping track of during the life of your listing. Oh, my PowerPoint is not cooperating with it. Oh, there we go. I got it now. So this one's boring. How many of you know you should put a lawn sign in the front of your listing? Just wave for me, Gary. Wave on behalf of everybody else I can't see. Yeah. And David, you could say yes to that one because I know you're not licensed, but it's pretty obvious, isn't it?
Yeah.
And putting a reduced price or an open house sign on it, or back on the market on that sign. It still works. It hasn't changed. It's still an essential part of the business. Make it change from time to time. I mean, I would go so far, and this is probably extreme, I'd go out and move the sign around the yard once in a while so that every time somebody drives by it, it doesn't look identical. But every change can be displayed on your lawn sign. Take advantage of it with the riders that you can add to it. And I think I figured out how to make my PowerPoint advance now whenever I click. I did. Let all your customers and clients know when these events happen. You have a database, right? Everybody's been told to accumulate a database. David, have you been told to accumulate a database yet?
Yes, I have.
About 12 times in your case. By the time your license comes, it'll be 45. Whenever
I imagine, yes.
something changes in your listing, notify your whole database that it happens. It's not because they might want to buy the house. It's not because you want their approval. You need legitimate opportunities to contact your database on a regular basis that shows you are doing real estate routinely. And so let your database know, let your customers and clients know, send them a note saying, we just got a great price reduction on this house. If you know anybody that was thinking of moving in the area, you might want to let them know about this because now it's become a great opportunity. Something along those lines. That's number 4. Take advantage of it as an opportunity to contact your entire database and basically remind them that you are a real estate professional doing business and serving your clients. And by the way, Mr. Buffini would agree with that sentiment. Number 5, new flyer and eCard. Now, many of you that are here in this class today are new folks. You've gotten the email from me already. I hope you paid attention to it about the class that's on the first Tuesday of every month at 5:30 in the evening for Hometown Agent Services. We want you to learn everything you can about everything that Hometown will do for you. And I know, Gary, you've taken that class, and Stacy, you've taken that class, and people take it again from time to time just to remind them. And this is one of them. We do flyers and e-cards and stuff for you. When something changes, get that renewed and then use it. Print new flyers is good to put in the house or in one of those boxes in the front yard that says take a flyer. They're free. I have too many already anyway. And e-cards are good to post on your social media, or when you contact your database, include the e-card, make it look like a nice professional email, but get these updated every time a change happens, including under contract and closed, because those are events in all of your listings as well, and you want to take advantage of those because your listings are not simply designed to sell, they are designed to
Generate business.
It rain, generate new business. That's right. And they're probably the best tool you have for doing that. Agent networking. And you do need my help with this. You want to network with as many agents as you possibly can, especially every time a change occurs. Now, we all hate getting those emails, but we wouldn't do them if they didn't work, and they do work. And we're going to talk a little bit more about this. So when you get that eCard, you already know, and David, you're about to find out because you might not know yet, that you can let everybody in hometown know that you got a price change, or that it came back on the market through no fault of the seller, or any other change that might have happened during the life of this listing. I can also help you with email lists of agents who also have listings in the area. And I'll talk a little bit more about that. But one of the basics of the business is that agents, for the most part, tend to do most of their business within 5 miles of the office. And if listings generate business, if that's the point of this class, then that's true for other agents as well. So the most likely agents out there to show and sell your listing are the agents who already have a listing in the same general area, because theirs hopefully will generate business. And when they go to show houses, they may have the opportunity to show yours. So you want to contact agents that you know. There are a few ways of doing that, and we're going to talk about that. You want to contact the people in hometown and just make sure everybody knows that something has changed and it matters to the value of this property as an opportunity. And do that on a regular and a routine basis as much as you can. Now, the reason I say that you need me to do this is there is a way to pull agent emails out of the MLS. I know how to do it. Anybody can do it. I don't tell anybody how to do it. And it's not that I'm trying to keep a trade secret to myself. We are allowed to email one another, business to business, other agents. It's kind of assumed that if you're in the MLS and you put your email address in there, people are going to email you, and that's just the way it is. But it's a courtesy to keep a do not email list, which I do on behalf of all of hometown. So one of the things that I will tell you I can do for you is when you need an email list of agents in the area around your listing, you can contact me. And I will produce it, and I will remove duplicates for you, and I will run it through our do not email list, which I'm the one who is the caretaker of that because we don't want people touching it and messing it up. And I will provide you with an email list that you can use to create this network. But other things that you can do is you have nothing to do this Saturday and you have a listing out there and somebody has an open house in the neighborhood, stop by. Shake the hand of the agent. Well, no, you're not allowed to do that now. Do a virtual shake, bump elbows, and create a little bit of a relationship. Who knows, they might even have sandwiches. And bring along one of the flyers for your listing and hand it to them. You know what I'm saying? And creating a personal network is a huge part of this business. And work on becoming an agent. This is important, that when you list a property, other agents say, oh, Luis listed a property. You know, I love working with Luis.
I know picture on.
And I would love to show and sell one of his properties. Our last deal was great. Become one of those agents. Make sense?
Yeah.
So what else do we have? That's 6 so far. Number 7, postcards. Did you all know you can do postcards? You can. And it's part of that agent services class. We'll go into it in more detail. But you have an agent services coordinator in your hometown office. We will design a postcard for you if you want it. You get a new listing or a price change or a back on the market or an under contract or a closed. And to send that postcard out to 100 addresses in the same area as your listing cost about $65, including design, printing, mailing, addressing, and postage. So it's a great deal. In addition to that, Town Bank does postcards as well. Theirs are half the cost of that because they share the cost and the branding on it. So you can do one or the other. And one of the things that I want to point out here that is not commonly realized, when you sell someone else's listing and it closes, you can do a mailing, a just sold, or as you can see in the slide, a just bought postcard saying that you sold a property. You can send that out just as if it was your own listing. It just has to be after it closed. You have to take your own picture of the house, which is no big deal anymore because you have a good phone for that. And you have to make sure the people who were your buyer don't mind you doing it. But if you do that, you can send postcards out even on properties that you didn't list, because listings generate business. Any questions about postcards real quick? All right. Reverse prospecting. And I'm going to show you this. We've done a class on auto emails. How many of you have created auto emails at this point? I can only see Gary. I know he has. The rest of you, you can nod. I'll just assume you did it. And so I am going to bring the MLS over onto this screen. Can you all see the MLS on top of my slide now?
Yes.
Good, okay.
Yes.
And I don't have any listings, so I'm going to go over here and become Mike Chenault, which I can do. You can't. Now suddenly I want to go shark fishing. And Mike has 24 active listings. And let's see, this I think is his newest one. Let's see how he's doing with that. I'll click on that. And there's the listing. Go back to the one-line list. Check it off. And down here is reverse prospecting. And you can see these is a list of all of the people who have an auto email in the system that matches this listing. His list shows up in the MLS. This is important. Let me tell you the theme for this afternoon's class. The goal of putting your listing in the MLS is having it show up on as many searches as possible. Take the class and we'll go into that in more detail. You will benefit from it. But first thing Mike can do is contact any of these agents. You've got email addresses here. I'm going to show you how to do a little more with them than that. And agents, customers can mark these. The hearts mean it's a favorite. This one was marked as a favorite by the customer. And I know this just went in the MLS in the last couple of days. These are marked as possibilities. The customer thought it had possibilities, not quite a favorite. So you know what? All of these get an email, not just when it's listed, but every time something changes. These folks get an email. But you know what? These people at the top of the list, they all are worth phone calls. Lynn Davis, your customer, and I don't know who your customer is, Lynn, but here's the reference number. You can look it up in your list of customers. Marked my new listing as a favorite. Do you need any help setting up a showing appointment? I'll meet you there. I'll bring the coffee and the contracts. You see what I'm saying? These get followed up to the agent with a phone call. These get followed up to the agent with a phone call. Kyle, your customer said this listing has possibilities. What can we do to this property that's not terribly expensive to make it more interesting to your customer and make it go from a possibles to a favorite. I had a listing once with a bright, hot, dark pink bathroom. I'd have painted that sucker myself if it would have made it more interesting to somebody's customer. You know what I'm saying? So these get phone calls. This is networking. These get emails. Now, one of the problems with the MLS is they don't automatically allow us to do bulk emailing. You can click on each one of these one at a time and do emails. But there is a little secret that you can do that will allow you to email all of these people at once. How many of you have ever heard of a program called Microsoft Excel? Just nod, the pictures I can see. Everybody's heard of Microsoft. So what you have to do is you have to have an open Excel spreadsheet on your computer screen. And now watch what happens. Doesn't this kind of look like a spreadsheet? Well, that's because it is. And so I'm going to start down here at the bottom and draw my mouse across and highlight these. I could do all of them, or I could just do the ones that don't have an icon because I'm just emailing these. Now, if I right-click and copy these, and now I'm going to show you my Excel spreadsheet. So Gary, can you see that on your screen?
Yes.
All right. I'm going to click in the upper left-hand corner. I'm going to right-click. I'm going to click on this icon. And now I have an Excel spreadsheet. Let's open this up. And here are all those email addresses. So now I can highlight these, copy and paste them into, listen carefully, those of you who have pens, copy them into BCC in a new email. And then put an email together about how you have a customer that matches this listing. Let's talk about how we can network to get your customer to buy my listing. For example, I wish Casey Jenkins were here. You got one of these. Everybody in hometown got this email yesterday. Do you remember seeing this? New listing. She got a new listing. She put it into the MLS yesterday. She did exactly what I just showed you, and everybody in hometown got this, plus everybody who was in her reverse prospecting got this email by doing it. Casey and everybody on Tommy Sabiga's team do this routinely. I'd like to suggest they got the idea from me, but Tommy's pretty smart. He probably figured it out on his own. So that's how you can use reverse prospecting to your advantage. Everybody else, what they do is they just put it in the MLS, hope somebody goes and looks at their reverse prospecting and contacts them. You're being proactive. This should happen. You can do it with an eCard. Every time you have a price change, start with new listing. Every time you have an open house, every time something changes in the property, like brand new pictures, you went and got a whole new set of pictures because you know in July, the front of the house should not have snow on the roof. We're going to talk about that this afternoon. And people don't notice these things in the MLS. Agents don't notice these things because they looked at it once already. It's out of mind. They don't go back and do researches, even though some of them will say, I can find it when I want to in the MLS. My reply is, then why haven't you? So you are letting them know about all of these changes. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Very much.
This, maybe of all the things that I've talked about in this, is maybe the one that should be the most routine for everybody. And
Oh, I
remember,
love it. Yeah.
if you are doing what everybody should be doing and they're not, how much is an advantage is that to you? So that's number 9. What else do we have here? Your lockbox. Did you know that your lockbox records who opened it and did showings on it? Now, I don't list and sell properties. I was real good at knowing how to do this with the old super system because I'd been using it for 25 years. I'm less familiar with Central Lock because I don't list and show properties, but I know you can go into it and find out who has showed the property. In my opinion, you get a price change. The first thing you do is the reverse prospecting email. The second thing you do is you go into your Central Lockbox for that listing, find everybody who showed it in the past, and they get a message from you. The listing that you showed has come down $10,000. If your customer is still out there, you might want to make them aware of it before someone else sells it. Because if it was interesting enough to show, now become even more interesting than it was before. That's follow-up. Lockbox is not just there to let people in to see the listing. It's there so that you can follow up routinely. In fact, at every showing, you should follow up. And we're going to talk about that.
That makes sense.
Well, all righty.
Okay. Yeah.
Solicit feedback. Don't ever let one of your listings be shown without getting feedback. Now, there is a system in the Central Lock system that asks for feedback. Set it up. Don't rely on it. Half the people or more won't bother to respond to it. Call them. Get the bad news. You're looking for bad news. You're not looking for good news. The good news would be they loved it and they want to buy it. So you want to know why they didn't buy it. Because if you're going to bring bad news to your seller, which is actually a good thing to do, who should it come from? You? They got tired of listening to you a while ago. Or should it come from 4 or 5 agents out there who are not connected to you in any way at all? You should be able to figure that one out. In fact, let me ask you one more question. And Gary, you're the only one I can see on the screen who's a veteran here. So I'm going to ask you the question and you can either answer it or just shrug your shoulders. Let's say you got a listing. It's been out there for a month and you go to your Supra lockbox system and to see how many showings there have been, and there have been no showings. Gary, is that a good thing or a bad thing?
That's a bad thing.
You would think so. And I was hoping you would say that because everybody does. What I want to suggest to you and everybody who's watching this video is it's a wonderful thing when that happens. Because what's the only reason there were no showings? The price is wrong. That's the only reason. So I would print out that screen that shows no showings. I would bring it to the seller and say, this is how many people have been interested in seeing your listing at this price. Don't you think it's time to do something? So it's actually not a bad thing. You want this to be the source of your bad news so that you can talk to your seller about making some changes that you can take advantage of to generate interest in the listing and generate new business for yourself. So don't be afraid of that. It's always a good thing. Does that make sense?
It does.
All right, we are getting close to the end. I've given you a whole list of things. This class will be available online. Here's a geeky one for those of you who like advanced technology. On your listings, there's a place where you can click and it shows all of these numbers. And I'll be honest with you, they can be confusing. I can't even explain all of these numbers because I don't look at them often enough. But if you were in the MLS, you could hover over each one of these headings and it would tell you what it was referencing. It's referencing the interaction of your listing with customers and clients, and in some places out on the internet itself. Here's what matters with this. I want to tell you that you actually don't care what the numbers are. You only care how they compare. So the listings with the higher numbers are the listings that are in the MLS more effectively than listings with the lower numbers. And the more you look at this over time, the more sense it will make. You don't have to tell your seller what each one of these means, but you can point out that this listing is getting a lot of attention, your listing not so much. You can look at it from time to time and see how these numbers change. So if you look at this 3 weeks in a row and the numbers are basically the same, you do a price change and they jump up, then you call your seller and say, look at how the numbers jumped when we did the price change. That was a good decision. So you're not looking at the numbers in terms of what the actual numbers mean. They almost don't matter. You're looking at them as a comparison to other listings and how they change over time. That all makes sense, doesn't it?
Yes.
A few more things. ListHub. This is a service you can pay for from ListHub. ListHub is one of the services that MLS provides that sends your listing all over the internet to hundreds of places. They also have a paid service. Last I checked, it was about $129 a year, I think. And it'll create seller reports for you that can automatically go to your seller. That again shows them how their listing is responding out there on the internet. I don't know a lot of agents who do it, but I just wanted to let you know that in addition to MLS sources, there are other things that you can do to track your listing and use it as a communications tool. We're doing a lot of social media now, and that can be tracked as well. There are impact and clicks and different kinds of things that can be measured as your listing goes out across social media. And we have a new wonderful person here at Hometown, Kat Milbrand at the Carytown office, who knows this stuff really, really well. If you haven't taken some of her classes, they've been recorded, but you can also call her and she will be more than happy to help you understand how you can track some of your numbers and see how your listing is doing out there on the internet. But again, it's the same thing. The numbers don't matter so much as how they compare and how they change over time. Here's one that I wish more agents would do. We have events. We haven't had them now because of the quarantine, but we have B2B events. Hometown hosts them. Some of our best agents have their own B2B events and different kinds of customer events, and you just have everybody in, have a party and network and talk real estate. How about at the end of the year having an event, if you have enough listings and enough contracts, for everybody you co-broke the listing with that year? Have them come over to the office in the conference room and have a little bit of fruit and beverages and just thank them for doing business with you over the past year. That would be something nobody is really doing that could generate some business for you and be the basis of a B2B. Maybe you don't know enough people and enough businesses to have an effective B2B on your own. Go to the Hometown ones. But on your own, if you've had a good year, celebrate it with the people who helped you make it a good year, and then ask them to do it again next year. So there's lots of things that you can do to network through the MLS and generate business for your listings and for yourself. Because the whole point of this is not just to sell your listing. The The whole point of this is to make it generate business. It's not just about selling, it's taking advantage of the changes and making them produce more business for you. They are all opportunities to make it rain.
Right.
So, any last quick question?